Hey, it is Judith with Days of Judah, and I wanted to come on and give an update about our homeschooling journey, travels, explorations, how it's going. We're still in our first year. I don't know quite how we want to count it. We were dipping our toes in back in January, but then we did an official beginning of school in September, so it could be a while of exploration or like a hard and fast start, so just like a month or two. Um, yeah, 2 months. Um, but I won't worry about that. We are still very much rookies. And so, what I want to talk about today is the rookies lists of pros and cons that I have come up with for myself. Um, so, I'm going to start with the cons because I always think you want to move upward, move to the best. So, for cons, I have my list here just in case you see me looking down. The first con I put was time with kids, and that's going to sound very contrarian, um, especially compared to what some of my pros are. But why I put it is, even though these are my children, even though they are part of the reason, they are the reason why I want to do this, why I want to homeschool, why the Mr. and I both want to embark on this adventure. They are a lot of work. They are a lot of personality and people. And it's going to sound funny, but you don't realize how much or I didn't realize how much energy and draw and staying on top of it there is when you are with your children all the time, because there is an element of developing your rhythm, but there's also an element of like, I'm tired. If you throw one more tantrum or whatever, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I can't tell you. I just know you may not like it. Yeah, so there is this element of really having to recalibrate yourself. Like people talk about gentle parenting. Like, gentle parenting, I think, is an amazing idea, but it definitely requires recalibrating yourself to this big task of, I'm going to really pay attention to this person and invest in them and treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve as a person, even though this person is small and sometimes unreasonable. So, yes, sometimes time with the kids is a con for me. Sometimes, I look at the mister and I'm like, I'm going to Target. This one needs sheets for the bed, and no, I'm not ordering it online. I'm going out of the house. I'm going to the store. I'm going by myself, and I'll be back and I'll be nicer. So, yeah, sometimes it's, and I will also say, for our particular lifestyle and life phase where we are right now, we are together all the time. There are a lot of homeschooling groups and co-ops and things like that where you do have a little more space, but one, our kids are still very little, and two, just our life circumstances are that right now that we are just all together all the time. And that's great, that's wonderful, and then sometimes it's hard work. So that is my number one of my cons. The second one of my cons I have is the learning curve. Now, this is also another one to take with a grain of salt, because there are so many ways to homeschool. So sometimes it's overwhelming, and I say this in a good way because there's so much information, there are so many curriculums, there are so many resources, especially now. One of the benefits of quarantine and the pandemic times was that a lot of people were home with their children. A lot of people were rethinking what their children's educational experience was going to look like. And so, you know, there were questions, and the already active homeschool sphere became more present and more visible. So, like, people were researching things and looking things up, and more people were deciding to do it. So there's a lot of information available, but it can be overwhelming. It can be a lot of stuff to weed through. And then if you are like our family, where we are right now, we are not doing a specific curriculum, like, to list, there's things like Mia Academy, Khan Academy. I'm just, listing things off of the top of my head that I've heard and seen. And those are curriculums. Those are things where either there is a step-by-step, the good and the beautiful is another one. There's a step-by-step process of what you're going to teach, how you're going to teach it, or there is someone virtually that is going to support you and help you, and you bring your kids and they're going to be doing the teaching. So there's a lot of things that are kind of like a built-in system where a lot of the load is not necessarily on you in the same way. We're still new. We're approaching this kind of more from an unschooling perspective, and unschooling does not necessarily mean lack of curriculum. Just where we are, we're doing a little lighter in that category. So that means we are, I said it in another video, we have some like skills books like that they sell in places like Target and Staples and things like that, like the preschool book, the kindergarten book that has a whole list of things that your child should know as they are preparing for this preschool or kindergarten or whatever. And we've been working through some of those just to get a sense and a lay of the land. And we've also been doing exploration through learning, going to the library and getting books, and also paying attention to what our children are really interested in right now. So, our eldest is absolutely day and night interested in color and color theory and drawing and all that kind of stuff. So we are exploring that. We're also seeing how we can implement those concepts in math and science and things like that. So it's a lot of exploration. It's a lot of everything. So it's a big learning curve. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay. But also the perfectionist in me, and also the person that grew up going through the schooling system, sometimes goes, "Ooh, is this right? Like, am I gonna fail? Is my kid gonna be behind?" And and I just have to slow down and say, they're learning, aren't they? And they are learning, and they're still engaged in learning, and they still love the process, and you're still showing them how to gain resources on their own. So you're okay. But yeah, the learning curve is somewhat of a con right now because it's challenging. And then finally, I would say the last con is that it is still a white dominated space, and everything that I've said on my con list is something that, like I said, is with a grain of salt, because this is a space that originally, when I first heard about homeschooling, I was a child, and it was a very white space. It was a very evangelical Christian space, from what I knew and from what I could see, and now it's beginning to change. You see different ways to be in that space. You see more people of color coming into the space, but it's still, because for a long time, others discovered it first, and others were exploring it first, whether that be because they had the means, the resources, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to try to dissect the history of it now, but right now it's still a predominantly white dominated space, and that can be challenging because sometimes you're just trying to find things that make your experience more rich and more fulfilling and more meaningful and intentional as a person of color. And so if the resources, if the curriculum, if those things that you look up were not made with you in mind, then sometimes you're kind of at square one, or trying to invent something. And the good thing about that is there are people who were at square one and it's like, this is not acceptable, and have invented things and have come up with curriculums and things like that. So it's growing. I'm finding it just takes time. So, and then also finding those people in that community also takes time, because it depends on where you are. So those are my cons. But for the pros, back to time with kids. I know I said it can be rough, but it's also so rewarding to know my children, to really know my children. And by that, I mean, like, and I don't say this as a dig, because I was a working mother, but when someone else is in charge of your child and watching your child, you're getting a second-hand account. Or I felt, there's this level of getting a second account of who your child is through another person. There are milestones that you miss. I remember just being terrified and just trying to emotionally prepare myself for missing milestones, because I knew that things were going to be happening that I wasn't going to get a chance to see. And I was sad about that. And actually, what happened for us, which was kind of a twist, was our oldest was just turning 1 right when the pandemic started, and then we came home. She hadn't started walking yet. I remember I was in the bedroom, taking a meeting in the bedroom on Zoom. I come out, and she's in the living room, and she stands up and she walks to me, first steps, and I saw it, and I was just absolutely ecstatic, but so aware that I could have missed it. So it's just, and even when we went back and it was hybrid, and I was back in the office, it was just, it's a weird navigation. So time with my kids, to know them, I think you can't really do, well, saying this as a rookie, but I feel like I can't really educate my children without having the time to really know them, to really just sit and watch them and watch their quirks and their things that light them up, and then go, oh, so if I do this for math time, then this is going to make it much more engaging, or this, it just, so that time, the educational piece is benefits from that. If you can hear our dishwasher, I'm sorry. But then also, like, we are with our children. We're building bonds and connection, and even though it's hard work, I'm so grateful. So next thing is, for our pros, is flexibility. I can't even express enough how much flexibility has been amazing. Sometimes there are simple things, like you have a doctor's visit, or you have something, and you're just, instead of trying to break your neck in your schedule, and when I was working, I stepped away from my position in April of this past year, but when I was working, taking children to a doctor's appointment meant you were trying to either schedule it on maybe on a hybrid day when you were home, or if I was in the office, then you're trying to break your neck in traffic, and like there could be 2 hours of traffic to get home, to get the kids, and it's just, so flexibility is huge, but then also flexibility in how we do education. Like, we don't have to have everything tackled by a certain time. We don't have to do the lessons exactly as it may be written out. We can deviate to what makes more sense for us. Flexibility of life. This past month, we all got sick. Like, sit on the couch and look at each other and wonder what happened. Sick. And it was okay. Like, there's no fear of like, oh my gosh, you gotta go back, and there's makeup, and there's this or that. Like what I mean, and they're still little, so they may not have had makeup, but like at some point in their education, that would have been a thing. And it's just so good to have that level of flexibility, even to dream about the idea of like going, doing something like world schooling and road schooling, where we go and we travel somewhere, like be somewhere for a month and do our school time, our educational space somewhere else there. That would be so cool. So flexibility is, I think, something that I'm really discovering how good it is and how wonderful. Kind of said this already, but learning catered to your children. Like I said, our eldest is all about color. She can tell you about primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. Do you know what a tertiary color is? She does. She loves it, and she like drinks it up, and just it lights her up. And we can cater to that, and we can also figure out ways to like explore ways to make math or reading connected to color and to art and things like that in a way where it's still engaging and exciting, and let's explore this. So being able to cater to that is really, really wonderful. Deschooling is a pro, and I put that here especially as a rookie. What deschooling is if you've been in the school system, especially if your children have been in the school system, it's taking time to just let some of the old ways fall off. Now, our children have never been in school, but I have, and the mister has, and it is surprising how much stuff has to fall off as you approach this new road to education, because I'll still be thinking, ooh, we're going to be behind, or we have to study this way, like we have to learn this way, or and then sometimes it's like, but why? Why do you have to learn that way? Why are they going to be behind? Why do do you have to sit at a table to learn? Can you lay on the floor with your socks off? There is so much stuff that you just, when you've grown up in school, it's just in there, and it's just become second nature because it's been every day you've been doing it. So deschooling has been amazing because it's forced me to rethink why we have done certain things as a country. Do I think some of those things are really important, or do I just think they're kind of like groupthink? So that's been a very interesting exploration. The next thing is I'm learning too. I'm learning all about, even though I'm an artist, but I'm learning more about color because I'm trying to help my daughter explore her love and passion for color and art. I'm learning. We've been studying, the seasons, and we're doing autumn now. And I could tell you some stuff about trees. I could tell you because I've been learning. We've been reading. So and you may not teach your child everything because, like I said, there's so many ways to approach the educational process. So someone else could be educating your child, but you're so close to that process, even more so than sitting in a parent-teacher conference, that you're bound to learn something as well, whether it's the subject or it's just the way you think about education. So that's been really interesting and really cool. And then finally, community. And yes, I know I said it's a white dominated space, but that doesn't mean that there is no community for someone who looks like me. just means that sometimes it's a little different. Yes, there is community with other people of color, but there's also community just homeschoolers in general. They're not all homeschoolers are one blanket thing. So not every homeschooler that I meet is going to be my speed or style, but it is really cool to just have something in common with someone right off the bat. Like I remember we were on a trip. We went to Hawaii, and we bumped into homeschoolers, and it was like, oh, you're homeschooling? Oh my gosh, oh my god. And it was like instant, like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. This is so exciting, like, and that's really wonderful to find a group of people that, even if they don't do things exactly the same as you do, that you have a similar passion, which is this road of home education, or rethinking the learning process is really passionate to you. This place of being together with your family in this unique kind of way is really passionate to you. And so it's been really cool to have some of those experiences here and there. I look forward to having more. Yeah, so we're rookies. We're still so new, but at the same time, hopefully this is helpful to someone else that is in the same position, or even to someone who's a veteran and just needs to hear what some of the young bloods coming in are struggling with or succeeding with, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, this has been our journey thus far. We are grateful. We are excited, sometimes a little bit scared, but we're doing it. We're doing it. So I'm Judith. This is Days of Judah. What are your pros and cons about a homeschooling journey? If you've thought about homeschooling, what do you think are your pros and cons? If you are homeschooling, what are your pros and cons? I would love to know. So, other than that, I hope you have a great night.